in 2 occasions, 2 of my tumors have been found by accident. It happens. But in every single case, I've had phenomenal doctors, surgeons, follow-up. But it all started with something doesn't feel quite right. My lung tumor, for example, I was misdiagnosed 6 times.
Wow.
And it's for no other reason, and I'll tell you why.
Hey, if you are liking the show and you want it to keep going, you got to help us by subscribing. It's real easy. Just subscribe right here. Also, comment. I don't care if you hate it. You can comment that you hate it. Comment that you love the show. We just need your engagement to keep it going. Also, if you're on social media, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram at the Geena the Latina Show. All right, let's get back to it. So today's guest is a very dear friend of mine, and I am glad that he is coming on this show today to share his story. His name is Rob Zilla. He is a radio personality. He is a small business owner, plugger, Crossroads Deli.
Crossroads Deli in the La Jolla Crossroads.
And he literally texted me, and 2.5-time cancer survivor, right? And so we've had people on the show that were cancer survivors and had cancer years ago.
Yeah.
You are currently battling cancer right now.
Yeah. Papillary thyroid carcinoma, which is actually the most common type of thyroid cancer. And this is my 3rd one, which hence 2.5 times. I've had 2 others in 2 other places over the last handful of years. And, this is what we're dealing with right now.
And you don't hear many people that have gone through cancer 3 times, right?
Well, sometimes folks will have recurrences. I would definitely think that this might be unusual because, like, for example, in my case, 2012, which you were there, I had a tumor in a lung tumor, which ended up turning out to be malignant, and that was a big thing. And then 2 years ago, and I kept this one a little quiet, was there was a colorectal malignancy, and I had that, and I dealt with that.
And that's a different place. So two different types of cancer.
So we're talking one in the lung and then one in the gut. So it wasn't like a recurrence. It just went from here down there.
Were they connected?
No, not at all.
So
it's
completely different. Okay.
And then in November, so you'll appreciate this. You've been on the radio for so long, you know exactly how you're supposed to sound, right?
Yes.
So I'm on the air, and I'm listening back to some of the work that I'd done, and I'm just sounding a little off. There's just something a little weird. And at the time, there was like a cold and flu thing. I mean, it's November, so everybody's got a little something, and one thing led to another, and I found myself like, I think I need to go get seen.
You just had a feeling.
Well, I wouldn't say that I had a feeling, that it was going to go the way that it did, but you're like, hey, based on my previous medical history, just the fact that I've had, a lung tumor before, and I'm starting to sound a little winded, like, usually in a 4-hour show, like, let's go, right? But I'm in hour 2, and I'm starting to feel like, it's
like,
my voice is starting to give a little bit. So I decided, thank God for moms. My mom's like, yo, just go get seen. No, mom, I'm fine. I'm just going to go sleep it off. No, go get seen. And, that's what we pay for health insurance for. And so I end up in the emergency room, because that's where you go when you're having trouble, breathing. And it turned out that I did have pneumonia that day.
Oh, wow.
But in the CT scan, they sent me down for a CT, and they're like, yeah, you've got pneumonia. That's pretty obvious. But while I was in the CT, or from the imaging, my thyroid lit up. It was completely like they weren't looking for it. It was completely by happenstance that they noticed that there were some abnormalities on my thyroid, which led to follow up after follow up after follow up. So, sonogram, and then, a needle biopsy where, they'll take a small needle and they'll go into the tissue, remove it, analyze it. And the next thing you know, totally by accident. So none of these three
Are connected.
are connected at all. It's just sometimes just bad luck. I don't know.
So you now have what type of cancer right now?
Papillary thyroid carcinoma. So
Okay.
it is cancer of the thyroid. I actually had my thyroid removed, which has ended up with, some other adjustments.
Yeah, tell me about that. We were talking about that a little bit off camera.
So your thyroid regulates everything from your heart rate to your metabolism, your body temperature. And this is all stuff that you never really knew until you have functional
Problems.
discussions
Yeah.
about it. If I didn't mention body temperature is at the top of it. And I can tell you right now, like, feel my hands. I'm freezing.
They're cold. It's not from my AC because I have a
No,
pump
it's
in.
definitely not from your
Okay.
AC.
Okay.
It is, like the tips of my fingers, tips of my toes are perpetually cold. My body for 50 years has sourced its T3 and T4 hormones from my thyroid. And then one day it's gone completely. And we are supplementing what my body used to produce and find naturally through medication, which, for all intents and purposes, when you talk about heart rate, blood pressure, metabolism, the way that, all of the body temperature, calcium regulation, that's mission critical in staying alive. And that's all gone. And so it's been a challenge just finding the right dosage, because, the doctors will say, hey, you're in the right range, but you really don't quite feel yourself. So it's been an adjustment. And I think with any cancer patient, there are not only the physical aspects, there's always going to be a physical change, right?
I want to give a quick shout out to our food sponsor, Cravings Fruit. They're a fruteria in Santee, and they have lots of fruit with chamoy. Today, they brought us some tortas, sandwiches. They even got candied apples. Of course, they have all the green juices, and this, I believe, is a watermelon juice. Shout out to Cravings. Thanks for being our food sponsor.
But the emotional and psychological aspects, I mean, that doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I thought it was different that we had someone that was actually going through cancer for multiple reasons, because there may be someone out there that is going through cancer for their first time, hopefully ever, like that's it, right? You have gone through it now 3 times, right?
Three
There's
times.
also people who have family members who are going through cancer and don't know how to react or help or, all these things. But let's talk about the emotional, like you said, and the mental. Now it's been 3 times.
Yeah.
Can you take me there a little bit?
Well,
because okay, look, I'm gonna be honest. Rob keeps things quiet. Like, he didn't even tell us he had cancer. I think his sister told me. I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know. Like, this guy's not even telling us. And we're his good friends.
It's hard.
I bet. Yeah. And I'm not judging you for that. But you do like to handle it yourself, which is why, by the way, I'm thankful you're coming on the podcast to talk about this, right?
And
there's a reason.
Yeah. Geena, it's I'm going to choose my words here. I choose to be a little bit more, I chose to be a little more private this time around because, the very first time I got sick was 12 years ago. And again, you were very much there, and it was, I'm 37 years old. We are all younger, and there was this incredible support system that was around and that rallied behind me. And for as horrible as it was, there was, I was able to take comfort. Like, I mean, to put Geena on blast, it's the greatest thing ever. When I got sick, Geena went to all of our mutual friends, and they put together like these little notes of encouragement, and Geena called it a prayer jar, which it really was. And I still have it in my bedroom, and it was for whenever I was feeling a certain type of way about my journey that I could just reach in and grab something. It's almost like a uplifting fortune cookie, and
From all your
from
friends.
all of
Like
our
everybody wrote
mutual
like personal
friends.
notes. Yes.
And unironically, 13 years later, it served its purpose once again. Like it was still there, and I still used to fall back on it. But you also realize that everybody's got something,
Mhm.
right? Everybody's dealing with something. And I don't know, maybe it's my own pride or just my Aries stubbornness, but I didn't want, sometimes I worry about burdening other people.
Mhm.
And I don't
But
want to,
burden people.
yeah,
But I'm telling you, as a friend, and that's where it's good. Like, I'm glad you're being this vulnerable and sharing that's probably how other people who have cancer or who are sick, maybe not cancer, just sick, don't want to
sure,
burden. But as a friend, we want to help, or a family member, we want to be there.
sure.
Like, because maybe one time the roles will be reversed and then we'll need it too. So I hope you understand that there's a lot of people that love you and there's a lot of
Uh,
people that want to be there for you, and like, but we don't know what to do because like sometimes like what we don't know what to do,
and
right?
well, it's also, there is no one size fits all solution because in my personal journey and the way that it impacted me is going to be totally different than, let's say, the next person or the person after that. I've heard stories where there are individuals that went through their medical crisis, went through their journey, and they were at work working their 9 to 5, and they didn't miss a beat. They did what they had to do, and you would have never have known. And to the converse, there are individuals that needed every support mechanism available to them in order to just hold it together. I fluctuated between, the pendulum swung in both directions for me in all of my, through everything. So, um, by no means am I an expert. My journey is specifically mine, I, but it's been, I don't know. It's through the grace of my friends and my family and those support mechanisms that helped me hold it together.
Yeah. And where are you at right now? Because you always say 2.5 time cancer. Where are you at right now?
So I'm still in active treatment.
Uh-huh.
As a matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, I had what is called a radioactive iodine therapy. So I basically took 150 millicuries of radioactive iodine. A little backstory: your thyroid runs on iodine. So the reason why your table salt and your fish and there's iodine is a naturally occurring mineral, and that's what your thyroid needs to function. Many years ago, doctors figured out that there just wasn't enough naturally occurring iodine in the human diet. So they're like, well, what if we iodize table salt? And that's why when you get your big bottle of salt, it says, iodized salt. It's there
Okay.
it's as a vital nutrient. Um, in my case, I went through a 1 month no iodine diet. I went completely off my meds, and I took a massive dose under doctor's supervision, obviously, of radioactive nuclear iodine with the intent of destroying whatever remaining tissue that was in my neck, both um, malignant and healthy. Like what, because like your thyroid isn't like a Lego. It's not going to
Yeah.
pop out of your neck. There's always going to be some remnant tissue in there. So we did that a few weeks ago, and um it's an ongoing process. We're just going to wait and see. I mean, I did get some good news not too long ago where it doesn't look like it has, while it did go into my lymph nodes, it didn't go into, let's say, my clavicle, into the bone structures. It's not into the lung structures. So that's great,
Yeah.
but um, it's going to take a little bit of time to just kind of let the internal radiation dose do what it does to kind of just see. And then, for the rest of my life, I'm going to need to be monitored very intently, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere it's not supposed to, just because there's so much that happens here, right? Like your
Yeah.
lymph nodes there, your lungs, your liver. It goes anywhere it's not supposed to, and it can be a problem.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of half joke it's 2.5, because in this particular instance, we're going to have to watch it for a while.
So like when you say watch it, you'll still have it. So it's not like you beat it and like the 5-year check-in.
So I'm like, I'm going to be doing blood tests, if not every month, every other month for the next at least year. Sonograms every handful of months. There's going to be another full body. I mean, like I'm sitting in a CT tube, for 2 hours, and you're like
Yeah.
strapped in.
It's no fun, guys.
No,
I've done it before.
Not the way you want to spend a Friday
They
morning.
do put music in your ears, though.
No, they didn't even let me do that.
What?
They were like, here, you could put your phone on the table behind you. That was
that's whack.
Yeah, it's about as far as it goes.
Oh, okay.
But so they're going to watch it, and that's fine. And I think that's, the responsibility falls on me to be my own advocate, to be responsible for my day-to-day, you know,
Hey, you, if you're watching this, subscribe. I know you're watching because we have the analytics, and a lot of people that watch us are not actually subscribed to our YouTube channel. So subscribe and like at the Geena the Latina Show on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at the Geena the Latina Show. Let's get back to the show.
I think that's where, the next steps are, is to, I'm going to perpetually be in a position where if you see something, I have to say something.
Yeah.
And to be mindful, like if this doesn't feel right. And I guess for your viewers and listeners, I think it's an important step that you shouldn't have to get sick or have a level of illness that makes you have that mindset, right? We should have that mindset when we're healthy.
Yes. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to bring you on, is because you did talk about how to advocate for yourself. So when you say mindset of that you have to have now, what mindset are you talking about that we should have when we're healthy?
Well, that if and when things feel like they might not be feeling quite right, like nobody knows your body better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we can all agree that at times our medical system can be deficient. Now, I've been very fortunate that I have had outstanding care in each of my 3 cancer journeys, or whatever you want to call it. I've had phenomenal health care. In 2 occasions, 2 of my tumors have been found by accident. It happens. But in every single case, I've had phenomenal doctors, surgeons, follow-up. But it all started with something doesn't feel quite right. My lung tumor, for example, I was misdiagnosed 6 times.
Wow.
And it's for no other reason. And I'll tell you why. So I kept getting pneumonia. I would go get pneumonia. I would end up in the emergency room. Doctor would take a look. It's like, oh, well, here's a 37, or at the time I'm in my mid 30s, here's a mid to late 30s individual who is otherwise healthy. He's got pneumonia. Let's go take an x-ray. Oh, wow, you've got pneumonia. Well, here's some antibiotics. Take these and you should be good. And the reason that mindset is because most 37-year-olds that show up with a pneumonia, it's usually a viral or a bacterial type infection. What we didn't know was that the cloud of the pneumonia, every time they took an x-ray, that shadow was hiding the tumor that was in my lung. So, a lot of doctors are trained to go with what's probable versus what's possible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's not a knock on the system. So in my particular, the way that we found this particular one was, um, I ended up, I had just been in the emergency room for pneumonia, and a doctor took a look and he's like, man, you were just here. This doesn't make any sense. So instead of sending me for an x-ray, they sent me for a CT. They send me down for the CT, and, you know, they were actually
The
looking.
CT is where you can see everything,
Yeah,
right?
so it's a
Yeah.
computerized,
So it's more than an x-ray, more than like it's like everything.
Yes, it is. It is like the most intense X-ray in the world. High dosage radiation. It's
yes, you shouldn't be doing it for no reason, but
no,
sometimes
because
you need it.
it's like, I think, it's like 100 or 1,000 X-rays. Like, it's pretty
crazy,
intense. But they sent me down for the CT, and the whole time they were thinking, all right, here's a larger dude, high stress job. He keeps getting he keeps getting pneumonia. They thought maybe I had a blood clot. So they thought there might have been a blood clot in my lung, and that's what they were looking for, not thinking that, oh, the reason why he keeps getting sick, the reason he's having trouble breathing is because there's an obstruction in the airway. There was a tumor there. So I could have just played it up like, oh, I'm sick, whatever. And I'll just take my antibiotics again. But I kept showing up even when things were wrong.
Like you knew something was that was not like.
Sorry.
Right. And so that, and what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like when you're an advocate for yourself. And I mean, I'll say it, Rob's very politically correct. He never wants to offend anyone. He doesn't want to say they're wrong. I'll go ahead and say it. Like, you need to know your body, right? I'm not saying they were wrong, but you said they misdiagnosed 6 times, right? And sometimes someone may just take the first and never look at it again, and never, or whatever. Like you may never, you have to advocate for yourself. If you feel like something wrong, keep going, find different doctors, find different things. Like, you have to, if you know your body, I feel.
And listen, I did not go to medical school. I'm not a medical expert, but yes, absolutely.
See, politically correct.
But yes, to your point, and to my original point, which is, if you feel like something is wrong and you're not getting better, in my case, like I wasn't, you just can't take it at face value. And, over the course of, post surgery and what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So we touched on this earlier where, my thyroid levels, my T3 and T4 my T3 and T4 levels are within the acceptable range. But I don't feel like myself pre-surgery. There are certain things physiologically that have changed. Whether it's my energy levels throughout the day or mood, like I'm still putting it back together. And that's where open and honest conversations with my endocrinologist are coming in to say, well, maybe we need to dial this medication up a little bit or dial this one down. And that's just, at its most basic, right? There are going to be times for patients where they're just going to need to
speak up. Speak up, vocalize yourself, say nah, like, no, try something else, do this, do that. Like, you have to. I always tell people, like, and I'll speak on this. I've had plenty of hospital experiences in different cases. Like, what I've learned is you need to speak up for yourself. If you don't feel something's right, then you just keep pushing. And I'm, again, no knock on doctors. Like, they're still human. That's what I always tell people. Doctors are human. The medical system is a business. Like, you need to know all these things. I'll tell you a recent story. I had like a really bad pain in my right here, and my doctor tried to tell me it was like gallstones. I was gonna have to have a gallbladder removed. I just knew it wasn't it. Ended up being like a cyst that burst, which is completely different. But they had me, because they were like, nope, the cyst in everyone, you're gonna have to get your gallbladder. I'm like, no, I know how I eat. I don't have gallstones. Like all these things, right? I'm not saying he was bad. He's one of the best surgeons, but I'm just saying, like, I just knew that it was not that, and I've been fine. But my point is that, like, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to keep pushing. You have to speak up. You have to, if something is not 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, and I think that also, just at the very minimum, Like, I have friends that are just afraid of going to the doctor,
Oh, yes.
that they would just prefer not to. And I think that, in that saying that ignorance is bliss, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, maybe you're just better off. But um, the first step is going and, like I'm at the mindset now where every year at my birthday, I'm going and getting my physical. I get an annual physical. I go get my checkup. Um, I'll tell you this, when I turned, I think I was 48. So recently, the colonoscopy screening age, because incidences of colorectal cancer in the United States has skyrocketed. And I'm going to just preface this really quick before I go on. We are seeing more and more incidents of cancer in individuals younger and younger. That statistic cannot be disputed. People will try and put their own spins as to why that is. I will argue the following. Our technology is getting so good that we are able to find these things much faster. The fact that we were able to find, on accident, my thyroid tumors, they were not looking for it. I did not have symptoms. And they were able to find it and deal with it before it became a much bigger problem than it already is. And the only reason they were able to do that in my particular instance was because the technology allowed us to do so. I'm 48 years old, and the guidance for colorectal cancer goes from 50 to 45. I'm at my annual physical. My doctor, who's been my primary care doctor now for 14 years, he's like, I'm going to schedule you for a colonoscopy. I'm like hell you are. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, look, I'll make you a deal. You've seen the commercials like Cologuard, where you got to poop on a stick. And seriously. And he's
Yeah.
like, so I'll make you a deal. I'm going to get you one of these lab tests. And if it comes back normal, we'll push it back to 50. But if there's any type of abnormality, just know we're going to have to pursue it faster. Or we're going to have to pursue it more in depth. With my luck, it comes back abnormal.
Yeah.
Which leads to follow-up exam after follow-up exam. I'm just going to own this because I want someone to see this and hopefully take the steps. Again, I wasn't really having a lot of symptoms, but every once in a while I get like a weird tummy ache or that would last longer than it should. They removed a tumor that was 9 centimeters, which is basically the size of my fist, from my intestinal tract, which explains a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you, subscribe right here at the Geena the Latina Show. Subscribe and make sure you follow us on social media on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram at the Geena the Latina Show. All right, let's get back to it.
They wouldn't have found it if I wasn't doing my part or if I ignored the way I was feeling, if I didn't follow the guidelines and or didn't have a doctor that was on my case, like, hey, you need to get this done.
Yeah.
If I blew off the follow-up tests, if I blew off the colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of men do. I mean, women do too, but men and colonoscopy, for some reason, you guys don't want to do it. I don't know, whatever it is. So you encourage men to
I'm encouraging absolutely everyone that is in that age demographic, whether it is, men, women, obviously, if you are of age and if you are a woman of age that needs to get your mammogram, if you are a person of age that needs to get a PSA, which is, your prostate antigen test, if you should do those things.
Because detecting it early could save your life, because it saved your life.
2.5 times.
2.5 times.
2.5
3 times. It's going to be 3 times.
It is going to be 3 times without a doubt.
We're putting that out in the universe.
Absolutely.
It's going to be 3 times. I want to ask you really quickly about, as a cancer survivor,
Sure.
which you are, right? 2 times, 2.5.
Soon to be
about
3.
To be 3.
Yes.
I'm sure you've learned things along the way, I feel like. When you're faced with a life or death situation, you've life lessons, emotional, whatever. What is You already have something. I know you have something of like, that people pass by or whatever.
We've been friends for a very long time, right? Like we met when you first moved from LA to San Diego.
Yeah. 18 years ago.
I would argue that this version of me now, and we all grow and we all change, but I would argue that this version of me now is a much more tempered, a much more patient, appreciative, and I still have a lot of work on myself to do. Um, I think that these journeys have humbled me
Mm.
quite a bit. I hope that you agree.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Yeah.
I think that the younger bulletproof, the fact that you think that you're bulletproof I think all young people think that they're bulletproof, but you get to a certain point in your life where you reach a certain age and you're kind of confronted with your own mortality. It will humble you faster than anything else in this world. I still have my moments of brashness. I still have my moments of being Rob Zilla. But I think that the last handful of years have really allowed Robert Hanna to
I love that.
really kind of take his place in my life.
And I should have introduced you on the show as Rob
No,
Hanna.
I mean,
Robzilla is his radio name.
Yeah.
Rob Hanna is his real name.
Yeah.
And I feel like this process, I mean, have you ever showed gratitude for having cancer actually? Because I feel like it has changed you, and thank you and goodbye. Me and his sister are like soul sisters. I'm sure he gets this from her all the time too. Like I'm thankful for this cancer because it has made me who I am now. He's like, no, fuck no.
No. I mean, I have to be honest, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I could ever get to that part.
Yeah.
But I think that I can actually still look at it and be at least grateful for the lessons.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look, Geena, you go through it once and it's tough. You go through it 2 times and
Yeah.
And you hit to a third point and you wonder like, okay, who did I piss off in a previous life?
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And it's hard not to question those things and then in the same breath be, well, but I'm still grateful for it all. And you can't.
Me and his sister are always like on him for this stuff, but he's very honest. I'll be like,
Yeah, no, you listen, it's almost like I have, yeah, absolutely. You guys, and I'm grateful for that point of view, even if it's not in that exact moment, right?
Yeah.
Jennifer's my sister, and she was, she's like, we were kind of making fun of the fact where she is very positive and optimistic, and she looks into, she likes to speak things as you do into existence through the positive.
Yeah.
The common term that young people like to use these days is delulu.
What? No, it's not delulu. So this is funny because our podcast is all about that, right? Rob is very opposite than me and his sister. But I'm
pragmatic and I'm practical.
Yes.
And, I see things for how they are.
Yeah.
I respect that you, my sister, and others like to speak things into how you would like them to be.
Oh, they will happen.
Yes. How they will happen. Absolutely.
He thinks we're crazy.
But don't.
Did you know you were coming on to a Delulu podcast? Because that's what all the episodes are about.
I have seen more than I have seen. Most of the episodes I actually really enjoyed, like the episode that you did with our mutual friend Eileen, who, talked about her cancer journey and her method as a survivor, and just a small thing about her, she's actually one of the very first people that knew that I was sick the very first time. And I mean, all these years later, still checks on me.
Yeah.
She was there and she had recently, she had gone through her stuff. And, to this day, she actually got me in touch with another individual who's now a mutual friend, who had the same type of cancer that I had, and who was great in being a sounding board and like, well, hey, did you experience this? And
Yeah.
how long did it take you to get through that? So knowing people along the way, like I couldn't be more grateful than for
See, you are grateful.
I,
See, you are grateful.
for sure. But would I rather have not gotten sick in the first place?
Which, by the
Absolutely.
way, if you haven't seen Eileen's episode, it's online, the Geena the Latina Show, on
Absolutely.
YouTube. Go, like, subscribe, do all the things. But I appreciate you coming on this podcast to share your story and to, like, the main thing we talked about is to advocate for
Absolutely.
yourself. Do you have any advice to someone that may be going through cancer right now?
That's hard because all of us are at different points, right? But look, there is no shame. That's not the right word, but if you feel like you need help, ask for help. My mind has been blown through all of these different life arcs at the kindness of strangers. Like I should not be surprised at the kindness of my friends and family because that's basically what they're there for. And I've been very fortunate in my life that I've surrounded myself or I've attracted incredibly kind and generous, empathetic, loving people into my life. So that's kind of a given. But the kindness of strangers is something that I never thought that I would experience. And I didn't really experience it until I got sick the first time, second time, and especially now. Like, for example, again, that mutual friend of Eileen's that had the same thyroid cancer, who went through the same thing in terms of, let's say, whether it was the iodine detox diet, the radioactive iodine, and I would just get texts from her, saying like, hey, how you feeling, and I'd be like, hey, is this feeling normal? So to your original question, what advice I could have that I could offer, don't be afraid to find a network. Most type of cancers or major illnesses, doesn't have to be cancer, right? It could be, there are networks, there are support groups for caregivers, right?
Yeah, caregivers, family members of cancer patients,
absolutely.
right?
Or, anybody that's going through any type of medical crisis. So there is support out there. But like you said in the very beginning of this chat, where you wouldn't have known unless somebody said something.
Yeah.
And that's
so.
I'm going to
take your own advice.
Take my own
I was
advice.
gonna bring it up if you didn't bring it up, and you're gonna.
It's harder. I can from real life experience tell you that it's hard to take your own advice and to ask. Like I said, we've been friends for a very long time, and I think we can agree that I'm the friend. I like being the friend that friends lean on. Yeah. I'm not used to being the friend that leans on others.
Yes, and so now it's time.
And I've been
ask for help. I asked you, if you remember, I asked you what advice would you give cancer patients? You pretty much said ask for help. And then at the beginning of this, you said that you don't really like to do that. So you're learning to do that. Yeah, and we're here for you, Rob. Lots of people love you. You just got to tell us. And you know what? I love, we're going to wrap up soon. But Rob and I couldn't be two more different people. And I think we are examples of that you can be friends with people that are very different than you. Like the way we think about things, like he thinks all this stuff is woo woo, but then he'll still try it with me and his sister because his sister's like me. Like
Yeah.
he'll try it once and he'll still say you guys are crazy, but I'm not judging you for it. So you know what? I appreciate having you as a friend.
Listen, you've tried, you're like,
We've done theta healing.
I was going to say, you've done theta healing. You've taken me to church.
Yes, we've gone to church.
There are
Nothing
things.
has stuck, but let me tell you, one thing's going to stick one day. He's going to finally be a believer.
But to your credit as a friend, you've never stopped trying. And to my credit as a skeptic,
you've never stopped trying.
I've never stopped trying. I've never said absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like I will give everything a shot.
A shot. So what's our next thing? You want to do some sound healing, some breath work? What do you want to do? I'm going to text you.
You name it. You name it, I will give it a try because at this point in my life, I've realized, listen, none of us are here for a very long time. Everything is fleeting in this life. So, why not try the thing? Why not try the yoga? Why not try the sound therapy? Why not try the breath work?
Yeah.
You might find that thing that works, you know, and like
we're going to find something that works for you.
I've actually found some things.
What?
Again, I keep it quiet. So
meditation, journaling.
I have apps.
Which apps? This is like breaking news. He's like the person's like, nope, I don't believe in it.
So I use the Calm app.
Okay.
So and I found that during COVID. So when there wasn't access to like in-person care, American Express of all things gave you like a 1 year free subscription to Calm.
Yeah.
And then my health insurance picked it up and it's been free ever since.
Awesome.
And so, every once in a while when I need to bring myself down, there's, whether it's a 3, 5, 10 minute and
I've
been trying to but that's kind of like a me thing. But I found that.
I'm glad you did. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll keep trying.
We're going to make it. We'll find something.
It's going to be 3-time cancer survivor by the time this airs.
You better believe it.
And where can people find you on Instagram if they have questions or maybe if they want to reach out?
Absolutely. So my social media handles on like Instagram. So you'll find me on Instagram at Zilla, Zilla on air. You can also find me. I think all my handles are the same, whether it's on, X, formerly known as Twitter. Thanks, Elon. Or Instagram, or even on Facebook. I think Facebook, it's rob.zilla.
Okay.
But, reach out to me. If you happen to be on your own specific journey, if I could be of any help, point you in the right direction. If you just need somebody to, talk to, I will.
He's a softie deep down. Don't let the exterior fool you.
I got a reputation to maintain,
He really
dude.
is.